Difficulties arise in our practices, but they do not arise because of our practice. That's very different. The moment we started practicing, it is just like compared to the moment we start practicing, the moment we open our eyes. And if you are in another sense, you go to the cellar, and the cellar is dark. The moment you open your flashlight, you start seeing things. And then, the big mistake that most of the practitioners do is that they believe because of the meditation that things arise. That is not true. They have been always there. This is something that we have to realize. They have been always there. Just because we open our eyes and start seeing them doesn't mean that they come through practice. Through practice we are aware of the things that are happening. That's it. Without practice we are mostly not aware. I mean, it's just like, watching a TV show that is boring or that is horrifying. I mean, we just switch the channel because we don't want to see it. But the TV show is still going on. If we like to see it or not, it's up to us. And that is the thing that we have done all our lives. A moment an unpleasant situation came up, we ran away. And we had so many things to run away to. So that's why we're not even aware, or weren't even aware that we constantly run away. Or we weren't even aware why we run away. Because we just thought, this is what we should do, or this is what we should do, or this is what we shouldn't do. This I don't need to, I don't need to hear this, so I go away, I walk away. I don't need to experience this, so I walk away. In other words, we run away. All our life have we been running away. And practice, please, and do not forget this. Practice is to looking at the things that are there. It's nothing new coming up. It's just opening the eyes and seeing what is there in the attic or what is there in the cellar hidden. Because what is hidden in the cellar, will determine the stink of our house. If there's a lot of rotten fruit, we don't know where the stink is coming from until we have a look in the cellar and see there's all rotting fruit and rotting potatoes or whatever. I mean, then we see the rotten potatoes or the rotten fruits and take them out and the smell will go. But if you just close, and bare the door to the smell, that is what people do in the life. And why do they do it? Because they don't know better. Or they do it because they can't just bear the smell. So they don't even want to get rid of it. I mean, it's just like, when we see a piece of shit, we walk around it. We don't walk through it. Or we don't like to take it up with our hand, even if it comes out from our own body. I mean, we care so much about our body, but the shit that comes out, we just don't care. Or the poos or the blood that comes out, we just don't care. We find it horrifying. We find it disgusting. Isn't that interesting? I mean, the moment we look in the mirror, we more or less like ourselves. Most of the days we like ourselves. But the things that come out of the body, we don't like. I mean, the sweat, we just don't like. We change our clothes. We have to change the bedding. We have to change the clothes. We have to change everything that comes into contact with this body. We have to wash the hair. We have to wash the skin. Not because of the dirt that comes from outside, but the dirt that comes from inside. But we never thought about it because it's so common. Everybody does it. Today it's a bit noisy, isn't it? Probably don't like me to talk about it. I mean, but if you look at it, huh? Yes. But if you look at it, it seems quite obvious. I mean, the grease of the hair doesn't come from outside, does it? The sweat from the body doesn't come from outside. If we put our shirt, in hanging it out for 3 days, it won't stink. But if we put it on our body just for 1 day or 2 days, it stinks. I mean, it's a disgusting smell. I mean, practice is living with reality, or getting oneself in touch with reality. I mean, there's nothing wrong, that sweat and pus and blood and shit comes out of the body, and that these things stink and smell, and we normally don't like to smell them, or we don't like to touch them. So we are educated in this way. We learn it from our parents, we learn it from our brothers and sisters, and we learn it from society. These things are not good. I mean, whatever comes out of the body, these things are not good. So we get rid of it. I mean, having a deodorant or whatever. Or flushing, even flushing without seeing the shit down the toilet. Huh? We don't look at it. Only if the doctor tells us to look at it and take a sample for evaluation. But then we don't call it shit, we call it feces. I mean, just to give it a neutral name. So that doesn't it show us that all our life we have been running away from these unpleasant situations. All our lives we have tried to avoid these unpleasant scenes or unpleasant sights, unpleasant smells, unpleasant touches. And now when we start practicing, and please just don't forget it, we are getting in face with reality. So we see what we're doing. I mean, we open up the cellar and see, what kind of rotten material is down there. And then we remove it and clean it out. And once it's clean, where should the smell come from? And what is in the cellar is, of course, it's all the kilesas that build up all the things that they love so. And it just rots away and rots away. And this is really something that we have to reflect a little bit more often. The moment we get frustrated with practice because we have to go through pain or unpleasant feelings, then we think this practice, we started practicing because we wanted to get rid of dukkha. We wanted to get rid of these unpleasant feelings. We wanted to get rid of this dissatisfaction that is within us. And then we have to see this dissatisfaction. And then it comes, the moment we start practicing, it constantly comes up there. It shows itself up in our faith. And then we think, meditation, that is certainly not the right thing to do. I mean, it's just, just gets us in touch with all these things that I already love so much. I mean, one thing that we have to remember, if we want to overcome hell, then we have to swim through the fires of hell. If we want to overcome dukkha, then we have to swim through the fire of dukkha. I mean, that is the only way how we can overcome it for good. So we have to face up with it. We have to know why. Because we have to know, we have to understand what actually is dukkha. What is it? What is it? Sometimes we call it dissatisfaction, sometimes we call it pain, sometimes we call it dis-ease, sometimes we call it restlessness, sometimes we call it boredom. It's all the same thing. We are not contented. We are not at ease. We don't feel comfortable. So one thing is, to investigate these things of being comfortable. What is not being comfortable? What is pain? What is suffering? What is restlessness? I mean, it seems to have an enormous power over us, this restlessness. I mean, we just can't sit still, we start shaking, until we do something. And then this restlessness seems to have gone. But the moment we sit down again, this comes up again. So, the wrong conclusion that we draw is that these things will go away if we follow them. That restlessness goes away if we just follow what comes up in our mind. That anger goes away if we let it out. That greed goes away if we follow it. If we buy what we want. That's the way that we have been educated. And that is the way there's something wrong with it. We have to investigate. Because the moment we buy something that we so much wish for, 5 minutes later we want another thing. The moment we let our anger upon somebody else, this anger comes against the next person. So we don't actually get rid of it. So it's a wrong education or a wrong training we have been going through. We think we relieve the greed by following the greed. And we think we relieve the anger by following the anger. So that is the first thing that we have to investigate and see that it's actually not God. We follow the restlessness and it seems, to be not there. The moment we sit still, it comes back to us. So it hasn't been gone. So it hasn't gone. The anger still comes up. It might not come up for that person because we just said something, but it might come up for another person or for a situation. And if it's not a person, maybe it's just the government. Or if it's not the government, maybe it's the nature, that just spoiled our crop. Just a hail, and it spoils our crop or it spoils our car. So we have to investigate. What is that? And greed and hate are the two most thriving armies that lead us into all the troubles that we have experienced so far. And it is not easy to counteract them. So what do we need? We need, first of all, we need sati. We need mindfulness, or we need this clear awareness. What is going on? The moment something unpleasant comes up, we have to realize something unpleasant comes up. And then just stay with it. Put. No condition, no going on. We stop at that program and just look at the condition. And then later on, we discover that this condition, just changes. This condition arises and then this condition ceases. Everything in this world or universe is impermanent. We ourselves are impermanent. The world itself is impermanent. It constantly changes. So, some of the things are difficult for us to perceive that it changed. If there's a mountain, when we are born and most probably it's there, when we die. We don't see it changing. But over time it will change. Sometimes there hasn't been a mountain and a mountain arises. And then it ceases again. A river vanishes and a new river is born. But these things are taking so much time. So, just looking at animals, looking at our dog or our cat, it dies pretty quickly. We can have five or six cats, while we are still alive. They all die away. Not because, they are killed, just because they die of old age. So we see our parents die. First of all, probably grandparents, they die. Then our parents die. Then our brothers and sisters die. And then we die. So there is nothing in this whole universe that doesn't change. Or is there something? Can you tell me something? Is there something that changes? So if everything is changing, so is it with our 5 khandhas, with our 5 groups. The body is changing. We know that. We were young, now we're getting old, and then we go to die. So it certainly changes. Feeling changes. I mean, one moment we are happy, the next moment we are sad. Or one moment we are depressed, and then we are delighted, or whatever. I mean, I don't know what the opposite is of depressed.
Elated.
Huh?
Elated.
Okay. So, do we realize it? No, we think the moment we think we have an unpleasant feeling, we think it stays there forever. So we have to get rid of it. Not realizing, if we wait long enough, it will just go on itself. We don't actually have to do anything, for it to go away. Because it's its law. It's intrinsic law of it. Everything changes. I mean, from a happy feeling, we get an unhappy feeling. From a pleasant feeling, an unpleasant feeling arises. And when the unpleasant feeling ceases away, a pleasant feeling comes again. And that's the way it is, But we think, we can create pleasant feelings by doing this and doing that. Or get rid of unpleasant feelings by doing this or doing that. And this we have to re-evaluate. This we have to reinvestigate, to see. In the beginning, of course, it is not. I mean, feelings are not me, are not mine, are not personal. They do not belong to me. Because if feelings belong to me, I can change them anytime I want to. A body doesn't belong to me. Because, if I don't like it, that it becomes sick, I just can change it to a healthy one. So it's certainly not something that belongs to me. It's not mine, it's not under my control. For it to change it, it has its own laws. So, and it follows the laws. So we have to understand what kind of laws does it follow. But that is not told to us in any kind of textbooks. What kind of law feelings follow, what kind of laws, the body follows, and what kind of laws memory follows. Memory is also one of the groups. I mean, sometimes, most of the memories that come up, we actually don't want to. Most of the thoughts that come up, we actually don't want to. Or we didn't invite them. Only a few thoughts, we invite. And only a few memories, we invite, but and sometimes they just don't come. I want to remember something, but I just can't remember it. So they are certainly not under our control. So then we see, just with this short reflection on the 5 groups that we think is us or that we think is mine, we realize that we actually don't have any control of it. So, the next step is to investigate. What are they? What kind of laws do they follow? And for that, we have to be, of course, aware. We have to be aware of what is going on. And what is going on in the chitta. I mean, the moment an unpleasant feeling comes, we know it's an unpleasant feeling. Okay. And if we don't attach to it, it goes quickly away. The moment we attach to it, it can stay on, and stay on, and stay on, and gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And how does it get deeper? I don't want it, I don't want it is a sort of attachment. I want to get rid of it. And with that, of course, because I don't want it, the negative feeling that is there already, it increases. And then I get sick of it, and then the negative feeling increases even more. And then I remember something, where this happened, to me 2 years ago, and the feeling even increases until it becomes an emotion, or until it becomes a mood. And that's how the things, that's how the things that we mostly deal with it are produced. Just by a very simple feeling that comes, or by a very simple thought, or by a memory that comes into our contact. And then we think about this memory, and the feeling that was associated with the memory increases, deepens. And then we think, somebody did that unto us. But actually it was us. We did it unto ourselves. If we would have stopped the first place, it just, would have been unpleasant. I mean, that's why I advise, to keep everything that happens within your life in a simple framework. In a simple framework, we are able to understand. I mean, the moment we open a watch, we are able to understand how it works. But if we don't open it, then we don't know. We think, time is moving fast, or it tells us, the hours, or it tells us the moon, or it tells us the state of the sun, whatever. I mean, there are watches, that can tell us all the things. And the moment we open it up, we see it. It is very easy, how it works. But for us, and we have 5 wheels, that turn around and turn around. One wheel is, triggering in the next wheel. So a feeling is triggering a thought, or a feeling is triggering a memory. The memory, has an associated feeling with it. So that increases, normally deepens the feeling. If you have just the opposite memory, it would decrease it. But that's not the way that it normally happens. So, within a second or within 2 seconds, we have a very big emotion that we can't deal with it. I mean, we just see somebody, and we don't know how many thoughts and how many memories, are creating this feeling or this emotion that we hate this person. I mean, we just look at him, and we hate him. I mean, where does that come from? Hate is not within the 5 khandhas. So it comes through a lot of memories and through a lot of thoughts. That within the blink of an eye, the Lord Buddha teaches us we have 3,000 mind moments. So, 3,000 mind moments is quite a bit, huh? So it can happen a lot, within the blink of the eye, we suddenly have hate, or we suddenly feel love, or we feel attachment. We suddenly want this, or we want that, and we don't even know how it started all up. So that's why we need actually these 2 weapons, to investigate. And one weapon is sati, that means awareness of what is going on. And the next one is panya, investigation, to get to the root of the problem, to see the law, how it works. I mean, in the end, we want to become free. We want to be freedom fighters. But each freedom fighter, when we look at the world, they first have to go through a lot of suffering before they get their freedom. I mean, they don't care if they lose their life or they lose their leg, all what they want is freedom. And that's why they stand up against the regime or against the tyrant. And then, of course, it's a very painful process. And how can it differ, when we look at practice? It's the same kind of process. In the beginning, we are with the champion boxer. I mean, we get into the ring and we get hit out, we get knocked out. Okay, and then the next time we climb up again in the ring, we get knocked out. Until the 1,000th time, we see a little bit, how the champion boxes or how the champion moves. And then we duck. The first time we duck, we feel happy because it didn't hit us. It didn't knock us out. And the more we are aware of the moves of the champion, And in other words, compared in our practice, it's nothing else than avijja or the kilesas. These are the movements of the champion. So we see them, we understand them, and we duck until we see a free spot in the champion where we can actually hit so that he gets knocked out. And that is the first time when we experience freedom, because there's nobody, who chases us. But of course, without blue eyes and hurt bones and muscles, we just don't get this. I mean, we can look for the rest of our lives, but if we are not in the ring, he doesn't make his moves. So we actually have to go into the ring. So he makes his moves. And of course, in the beginning it will hurt. So that is just another description of what I said, in very short words in the beginning. If we don't want to overcome hell, we have to swim through the fires of hell. There's no other way. Sorry to say that. I mean, meditation is the way of gaining liberation. Is gaining the unconditioned. That means, uncondition ourselves. Each time, each aspect of our life, we have to uncondition the condition. And then the condition is just nothing else than if then else. I mean, it's just it's a very simple programming. And programming is logic. I mean, once we understand the logic of programming, we understand what is going on. And we can change it. Because we understand it, we say, okay, now we just throw this line out of the program. And satisfaction comes within our lives, within our reach. So I just tell you this, not to get discouraged. Practice brings up a lot of shit. It's not the shit, that comes from elsewhere, just through our practice that we get all this shit. No. It's just that we see. In the beginning, we start seeing, the moment we open our eyes, we start seeing the things that are so far on the level of unconscious. Or subconscious. Yes, that's what it is. On the first level of subconsciousness. I mean, it's under the consciousness. So, meditation brings the subconscious level up to our consciousness. Then we see what is happening there. Once it becomes conscious, then the next level of subconscious, we can bring that up. And then we can bring up until there is no level of subconscious anymore, because everything is conscious. We see everything. And that is the way of practice. And of course, it doesn't go from 1 hour to the next hour. I mean, it takes a little while. And of course, we have to accept what is coming up. I mean, that is the main point. I mean, if we can't accept what is coming out of our subconsciousness, I mean, we will never get rid of it. We will never be able to make it completely aware. I mean, is that more or less clear? I mean, there's nothing hard to understand in terms of practice. I mean, all what we have to do is, to do it. And that's where all the difficulties lie. Because we just are so unused to live with our unpleasant feelings, no matter what they are. Are there unpleasant feelings of the body, or are there unpleasant feelings of the mind? No matter. We don't want to feel them. And that is the first thing, we have to dive into. Just like some people, just don't like to go into cold water. I mean, now it depends on your personality. Are you the person, when it's really cold water and you want to swim, you just put your toe in, and feel until the toe is comfortable, and then you put your foot in, and then you put half of your leg in, and it takes hours or days, until you get in the water? Or are you the unfearful person who just jumps into the cold water? I mean, then the process is, of course, much, much shorter. Most of us, are just putting, a little toe, not even the big toe. And then that is uncomfortable, and then they retract. And then, a day later, they try it again, and they still think, why should I do this, I was taking up meditation to have some pleasure, to have some fun. And that's not the way. We will have some fun, but we have to fight for our freedom. Think about all these people, in the 70s and the 80s who fought against the regimes. They didn't care. They just wanted their freedom. And nowadays, now in Russia and whatever, they still do it. They want their freedom, But that kind of freedom is not the freedom that we want. But when we are meditators, when we are practitioners, the moment it gets too difficult, we forget about our freedom. It's too difficult, I'm rather be a slave, who's given whatever, whatever the master gives us. Isn't it? 20, 30 years? I'd rather eat that what our master is giving us than to go against the master who gives us the bread, huh? It's a difficult decision. We believe it's this way. And what we believe is what is normally what holds for us. And when we start and see, what is actually happening there? What is happening? And all what is happening is nothing else than these 5 groups. They're working together, in unison, and pretty fast as well. They are so fast, we just don't see them. And that's why we need to speed up our sati. We need to speed up this awareness that catches everything that is going on. The moment you stand at a train track and you see a train, passing by at 400 kilometers an hour, all what you see is a blur of color. Isn't it? Now, you start running until you are at the same speed of the train. You can see every detail. What kind of what kind of wagon is this? What kind of person is sitting in there? What is this person doing? What is that person doing? Even what they're saying to each other? Or what they're eating? But if you are not at the speed of the train, you don't see it. It just whoop by, pass by, pass by, pass by. So sati is the one that is important, to observe all these things. And once we can observe them, we will understand them. And once we understand them, we are getting free. Each time we understand one thing, but understanding in the sense of having an insight. Insights can come through observation, just like a physicist puts up an experiment, and observes what is happening. And once the experiment is finished, he has an understanding of what is going on. And the same thing is what we have to do. We just have to observe, what the chitta is doing in combination with the 5 khandhas. And then we might understand it. But sometimes, it is necessary to question a few things before we actually can see clearly. We can question, what is this body? We can question, what is eyesight? We can question, what is hearing? What actually is hearing? Do you actually hear the cocks? Or do you hear a sound? It's quite logical that we first hear a sound before we hear the cock. Or the chicken. Or that, what is Nokyo? Nokyo, what Nokyo? Peacock, yeah. They are very thrilling noises. I mean, chickens, you can get used to, but, when the peacocks start, Yes. So, but actually what first is taking place, we hear a sound. And then we assume it's a peacock. Or we assume it's a chicken. Or we assume it's a snake. If we assume it's a snake, we might get afraid. If we assume it's a tiger, we get even more afraid. If we assume it's a dog, we are at ease. So our assumptions that we make is building the reality for us. No matter if it is really a peacock or if it is a chicken, no matter, the moment we draw this assumption, we are satisfied. So the first thing in our practice is we have to re-investigate this assumption. Is that true? Does it hold? What is the sound? Does it really matter what kind of sound it is? Or observe the process of how this assumption is made. And that's, of course, not easy. I mean, we need a lot of speed. We need to run pretty fast, until we see that. But we can. It's not beyond our facilities that we cannot. But most of the time our mind is somewhere else. That's why we don't catch it. It's there thinking in the background. And after a while, if we do the Buddha or if we do our breath, then we will see something is going on in the background. It's just, so much in the background that we are not aware of it. And then we have to concentrate even more on our Buddha or concentrate even more on our breath until that background thinking, just stops. The beauty about our composition is that it is a single processor machine. It can only do one thing at a time. So if we think Buddha, it can only do the Buddha. If we observe the breath, it can only observe the breath. It cannot do things simultaneous. That is the beauty, and that's why we can understand it. That's why we have not been able to build machines that are parallel processing. Because we cannot even invent a language for parallel processing. Because our mind just doesn't work that way. If our mind would work this way, we would have a language. A programming language. Interesting, isn't it? I mean, certain things, we can assume that it is parallel. We can do it parallel. But we still, or at least, that was my last information. We don't have a parallel programming language. We do it otherwise. So our processor is single. It's just a single CPU, central processing unit. One instruction per time. It's pretty fast. So, and that's why we can understand it. We just observe one instruction, and then we observe the next instruction. And the more mindful we are, we get all these instructions. And then we can correct the programming. Or in other words, we can correct our behavior. If this condition happens, then we don't do this anymore. Because we throw that out of our behavior. And that's how we can change. That's how we can become unconditioned. Or in other words, that's how we can become free. So if you reflect now, the most important things in our practice is sati and panya. Is the sati, is this mindfulness, is this awareness that is just aware, that is objectively aware. Mindfulness is mostly biased, With mindfulness we say, things that we like and things that we don't like. But awareness is just aware of the things that are going on. So it's much more closer to sati, because sati is awareness. is something that is just a way of, that a feeling comes into contact, or that the body comes into contact, or that a smell comes into contact, or that this comes into contact. That's it. That hasn't concluded yet if that condition is unpleasant or pleasant. And that's why it's objective. So it just sees it. It sees the next thing. Okay, now it looks up in the memory. What kind of thing is that? And the moment it looks up in the memory, of course, a feeling is coming with it. I mean, things that we like, have a pleasant feeling attached to it, and things that we don't like have an unpleasant feeling attached to it. So memory is not objective. But if you look at it, if you observe it, it still can be more or less objective. So we see it. Okay. And then this memory triggers another thought. And with this thought, another feeling comes. And then combines with the feeling, and then if you observe what is happening at the snowy mountain, you just roll down a little piece of stone. And if it rolls down long enough, it becomes an avalanche, destroying everything on its way. And then we accuse the person, that we see up there in the mountain, that he created this avalanche that we ourselves, just 5 minutes ago, let roll down. And it just, we feel we cannot deal with it. I mean, what cannot deal with it? I mean, we are the creators of all these processes. We let them happen. But it's also within our power to stop them. The moment you stop at any time, the building of the avalanche, the moment you stop, that's where it stays. The earlier you stop, the less harmful it is. The later you stop, the more harmful it is. I think it's a good example for people who know avalanches. They can be pretty disastrous. But in the beginning, it's just a snowball. Everybody can pick up a snowball, and remove it. That's it. No big deal. But to destroy an avalanche, that is huge, that destroys our house or it destroys even a whole village, that is more difficult, isn't it? So the sooner we see that, the sooner we can stop it. And the less harmful it is. So it's all up in our power to do. But the power we only get through certain ways of practice. Through the practice of mindfulness, being aware of what is going on, and then being aware is stopping it, or replacing it. In the beginning we train it, replace every thought with Buddha. Or replace any thought with being aware of the breath at the tip of the nose. So we replace these things. And once the more we replace, the less harmful the things in the background are. And the longer we can stay on our point of concentration, the more content we become. The more happy we become. And then sooner or later we realize that it's only the thoughts and the memories that create all these unpleasant experiences in our world. Without these memories and without these thoughts, there are no unpleasant encounters. They're just things happening in a very objective way. Just like we watch other people who are not related to us, whatever they do, it doesn't really matter to us. If they talk or if they shout at each other, we might smile. Because it's not us. So that is kind of objectiveness. We just observe what is going on. And then we find through investigation how these things work together and how we can break the wheel. so that it stops running like this. And that is the path of practice. But of course, we have to be able to stay with unpleasant feelings. And then in the beginning is not easy, I admit it, it's not easy to stay with all these unpleasant feelings that we have for the last 30 to 50 years have run away from. To stay with it is, the longer we've done it, the more difficult it is. So stay with it, and see it. See anicca in it. See the impermanence in each feeling. If unpleasant feeling arises, so it must cease. We have the saying, what we throw up must come down. It will not stay up there forever.
If you're out in space,
huh?
If you're out in space.
Well, then it might not even flow. Then it might not even fly away. But, there's also some movement, but the movements are slow, of course, in space. It doesn't have the gravity of the Earth. And that is the same thing. That's a good example, It's just like in space, all our movements are very slow. The moment we are concentrated, everything becomes very slow and very observable. In space, people cannot run. They have to be very careful, putting their arms and legs out. So it's a training of mindfulness. Of course, we need a black hole, to slow down our thoughts. The gravity of the Earth is not enough to slow down our thoughts. We need to be close to a black hole, to be able to slow down. Anyway, but we can do that also with meditation, with concentration on one point. Even our trains will slow down. Even our thoughts will slow down. In the beginning, we realize that we have a train of thought, maybe it consists of 20 or 30 thoughts. After a while, we concentrate still on the same thing. Then we realize after 4 thoughts, okay, I'm thinking. And then we realize after 2 thoughts, I'm thinking. So our mindfulness becomes sharper and sharper and sharper. And then after 1 thought, I just had 1 thought. And then half a thought. We can even stop. Within the middle of a thought, we can stop it. And then the next thing that we realize is the beginning of a thought. I don't want to think it. We can stop it. And then we see the pre-notion of a thought. A pre-thought. That's how we can slow down our thinking. We know that a thought is going to come up, and then it goes in a certain direction. We don't know the thought yet because it has not been born yet. So, and then we can decide, no, we don't want to think. And then we stop thinking for a while. And when we stop thinking, we start experience. And without thinking, there's no judgment. Without thinking, there's no fear, there's no worries. There's just this, whatever happens is what happens. That's what is called also reality. We just experience reality. And that this is a state, in other words, it's a state of Upachara Samadhi. And then we go on. We concentrate even more. Until this world of phenomena even cease to exist. Until we become really one-pointed. And if we become one-pointed, the other points cannot exist. So this world of this universe completely collapses into one point. That's interesting. We know that bang theory, where the whole universe goes back into one point, and from that point on, the whole universe develops again. Don't we? And the same thing can happen with our mind. So the moment, the universe becomes just one point, there's no universe, is there? And there
it's not true.
Of course it's true. Well, yes. It's hypothetical, you know. I mean, how can you prove it? You cannot exist at that very moment. Nothing can exist. Well, if you want to know, yes, maybe. So, and really, does it matter? You know, it's a very good example. You know, I mean, we can all go through the theory, and then we know at the moment. I think the universe is contracting again. It's not expanding anymore. Is it?
The discussion is whether it's expanding at a speed where it doesn't collapse.
So, whatever. I mean, and the same thing can happen to our mind. So when it becomes one-pointed, there is no universe anymore. There's the body that ceases to exist. I mean, the first thing, when we observe the breath ceases to exist. Or when we observe the Buddha ceases to exist. Then the body ceases to exist, and then the whole universe ceases to exist. And all what is left there is clear knowingness. And it is not beyond our ability to reach that state. Of course, it takes a little bit of determination and effort, huh? I mean, that's unquestionable. If we don't put any effort in it, we won't get there. If we are not determined enough, we won't get there. So it takes all our determination and all our effort. But it's up to you. We have the determination, or we can build up the determination, and we can build up the effort to get there. I mean.
We are looking forward.
Huh? Yeah, we all like to do it, but we all like to take a pill, that makes it for us. Isn't it? So actually we have to develop something like the Forschergeist. Huh?
Researcher spirit.
Yeah, but that is not a good word. I mean, Forschergeist, is something that really, points down,
Similar to Zeitgeist.
Zen-Geist, yes. I mean, mind and Geist is not the same thing. I mean, Geist is a bit more precise in that direction. Geist means also spirit. Huh? And the spirit, that is important, the spirit to do something. The spirit to undertake the enterprise. Huh? And if we say mind, what is that? That's why I say, Geist. Huh? How do you pronounce it? Gist.
Well, I don't know. I've only seen it written down.
English pronunciation. US is just German.
Yeah, but quite a few words from Germany, are used also in English because they don't have an equivalent in English. Yeah. That's something, quite a few words. The German language is pretty rich, huh? in words. And I think in the 20s and the 30s, a lot of words, especially from physics or philosophy, have been, just been put into English.
A lot came from Germany during the 20s.
Yes, because in the 20s, the German population or the German nation was quite inventive. Also arts and so on. But let's go back. Go back to this Geist. Go back to the spirit that we need. If we have the spirit, if we have our determination and effort, we can do it. I mean, we can even do it today. Yeah. But but the problem is that then some pain comes. We are dispirited by pain or unpleasant feelings. Or by boredom, or whatever, the Kilesas have also, quite an arsenal of weapons. that they use against us, and they pick us. And then we get sick, Oh, now I need to lie down, Or we get tired. Oh, now I can't concentrate, so it's, Or we become exhausted. Now I need to eat something. Or, I need to sip something. Or then suddenly, in the middle of our sitting, we need to go to the toilet. They produce all these kinds of things. They have a full arsenal of weapons. Isn't it, Kaya? But, within time of practice, we will learn what kind of weapons they use against. But, of course, we will learn only when we have sati. When we are aware of what is going on. Then we will learn the kind of weapons they are useful. We fall for the same trick maybe 3 times. And then we decide, no, not this trick again. I know it just doesn't work anymore. We can see, we can overcome pain, or we can overcome, tiredness. Just walking through tiredness, it leaves us in an amazing state of clear awareness. But, before, it's so hard, even to concentrate on one more Buddha, so we give in. But if we go just through this concentrating, as difficult as it might be, this one Buddha, suddenly, we are clear awake. We are so amazingly awake, we don't even know what had happened. Because the kilesas retracted. They were defeated. That's what I said, once we get the blow at the champion. Once we know that we just have to go through these unpleasant feelings and not to react to these unpleasant feelings, the kilesas will retract. They only use the weapons unless they are useful for them. Just like a child, I often describe it, when a child with a mother goes in a shopping mall, and then the child sees this and that, and it wants this and that, and it starts crying. And if the mother is so stupid and buys it for him, it was effective. But if the mother is hard enough, like us practitioners, whatever the kilesas are coming at, let it cry, let it be painful as long as it is, Sooner or later the child will stop. Won't it? And sooner or later the kilesas will stop bothering us. And when it stops bothering us, we feel relief, we feel at peace, at ease. But of course, the shrill sound of a little child, it's much more it's very difficult to bear. So is it with pain. So is it with tiredness. It's difficult to bear with it, isn't it? But if we are able to bear with it, we get the peace. If we understand this, then there shouldn't be any obstacles on our path to the state of deep samadhi, of one-pointedness. And then just see what is left over. Whatever can die, let it die, and see what is left over. Who knows that something is dying? We think we die, but who is knowing that it's dying? Who is it? It's the chitta. The chitta has gone through so many deaths. It just knows the experience of death. Oh, one more. One more of this kind. One more of that kind. We can even bring up all these things. They're not really that kind of nice experience, but sooner or later they will come up. I had to tackle it, in my first years of practice. 4 weeks, each night another death. And after 5 days, I was sitting down in meditation and asking already myself, what kind of death am I going through tonight? Yeah. I didn't want to stop meditation. That's why, I said, okay, whatever comes, let it go. Let it pass through. And after 4 weeks, never ever, in the last 16 or 17 years, no more death. But in the first 4 weeks, just one day after one other. You get a little bit worry about it, after 2 weeks, you still, it still doesn't stop, 3 weeks, but then suddenly it stops, never comes back. It's just one thing, that comes up from the subconsciousness, you have to deal with it, and then you deal with it, and that's the end of it. You never ever deal with it again. But as long as it is down there, as long as we keep it down there in our subconscious, it's going to rule us. The moment it comes up to consciousness, we can chuck it out. Just like our thoughts, the moment a thought comes to our consciousness, we can think it, or we cannot think it. I mean, it's up to us to follow it or not to follow it. And most of the times we say, no, I've got this thought, 3,000 times. It doesn't bring anything new. I don't know, just look around, we just need to sit down and we see the same thoughts, same train of thoughts coming over. Are we not bored with this? I mean, don't we ever get bored with this? And nothing really new comes from it. But what is it, that makes us think it again and again and again and again? We think, by thinking it again, we might get a new insight, but we don't. So stop it, chuck them all out. Chuck it all out. Whatever is not necessary, chuck it out. And then we will receive some peacefulness or some happiness, whatever. And the path of practice is the path of practice. It's not the path of, knowing. I mean, reading a book, that tells us about all these nice things that we can experience. But, it also says, we can experience through our own practice. We cannot experience it through our knowing. I mean, knowing is one sort of experience, but, practice is another kind of experience. Yeah.
What's the result of that 4 weeks?
I wasn't afraid of death anymore. No, nothing. I don't remember it because it wasn't. No, not even that. No, not even that. That was coming later, much later. Just experience. It's not. Just experience of death. I mean, not experience of death is not just seeing the pictures, but even after getting up of meditation, all these things, still hurt. Sometimes I had a death, were drawn by 4 animals, by 4 horses. I mean, for 2 hours, my whole body was hurting, was still in pain. That is the kind of death I went through. And that's why I was pretty wary after 5 days. I mean, you feel it, It's not only that you see it, you really re-experience it. And with re-experience it, it means, all the feelings come up as well. I don't know why. It just came up, and I didn't know. I didn't have a meditation teacher to ask, so I just said, okay, you want to start practice? No. Okay, then just go through it.
Was it in Germany?
Huh? Yeah, it was in Germany.
Is it a retreat?
No, it wasn't even a retreat. I was at home.
Oh, yeah.
It was Christmas time.
Oh, yeah.
That was my Christmas present. I mean, the first year was really difficult. All the shit came up. I mean, all the shit, Every day I hardly could breathe anymore. I mean, all the things, that I have neglected over my whole life, just came up. And I said, I want to stop now. Okay, then you have to look at it. And once I looked at it, it was gone. Then I looked at the next thing, and it was gone. And then I looked at the next thing, and it was gone. I mean, I just accepted it. And once these heavy blocks are gone, then you can see the more subtle ones. And then, once the subtle ones are gone, you will see how these things work together. I mean, first you have to get rid of the big debris. It's just like cleaning the attic. You don't see the spots and the grains on the floor if there is still, large furniture, hiding it. So first of all, you have to get out all this large stuff. I mean, then you have to take a vacuum cleaner to clean all the things, and take, dust cloth, and dust it, off, and then you take a wet cloth, and wipe it off, and then you see the stains. Before that you can't even see the stains, but they are there. We just imagine, no, they are not there, but they are there. So it's just like, And then you see the stains, and then then it's hard, You have to remove stain by stain. And each stain doesn't go in the same way, So you have to become clever, How do I remove a blood stain? How do I remove an ink stain? How do I remove that kind of stain?
Stain remover.
Huh? There's no all stain remover. That doesn't exist. It's just like acid, Of course, the stain is there, but the cloth also goes.
You have to pay for it.
I remember about they were having the carpets cleaned, and the specialist who was into cleaning carpets said it won't touch tea or coffee. It won't take tea or coffee stains out of the carpet.
Yeah, tea is very, very difficult stain in red wine. I don't know why, but And blood, of course, Blood is something, that is very difficult to remove. So, it's just similar, but it's just the same thing, You see one stain, you can remove one stain, and then you have to find another tactic to remove the next stain. So that's why you have to switch pretty much. You have to be pretty alert to what kind of things are happening. So we start with alertness and we finish with alertness. We start with investigation and we finish with investigation. So it's the same process. Actually, the longer we practice it, the deeper it gets. And the more it is able to remove and to level up. That's all. From the beginning to the end. We do the same thing. We just get more skill. Just like a practitioner, just like, grinding down iron. We first have to learn how to hold it, how to hold a fire. If you hold it wicked, we can't get a clear cut surface. It takes a long time, just to get to the right finger movements. And it's the same thing with practice. It gets a long time, until we can really clear out the thoughts. It takes a lot of practice. The only thing is, we should not let go of our practice. That is the one objective. Don't let go. You train it today, you train it tomorrow. And if you train it every day, it will have some fruit. Just like any skill in the world. If you learn to ride bicycle and only ride bicycle once a year, we might not be able to ride the bicycle at the end of our life. It takes continuous effort. And the continuity of meditation is very important, not to forget. So, I offer this for your reflection.